Hi there. I'm gonna complain about something for a few minutes. I hope that's okay. You ever see this thing? Of course you have. It's one of those things that everyone's reblogged or retweeted or shared on Facebook or whatever the hell it is people do on Pinterest. Now, on the off chance that you aren't aware of this meme and you're too lazy to just go back and read it, allow me to reenact it for you. What the author meant versus what your English teacher thinks the author meant. Example: the curtains were blue. Your English teacher: the curtains represent his immense depression and his lack of will to carry on. What the author meant: the curtains were fucking blue. Ha 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 ha! LOL, so relatable. We've all had those kind of teachers, huh? Am I right? Ha! It's just a shame that what it is, or rather what it's implying, is complete bullshit. You see, folks, this is a kind of mindset I see pop up a lot. And I mean a lot. Whether in school or on the internet, I find people have an open contempt for deeper consideration of a work's text, or even subtext. The people I'm talking about will say things like, dude, it's just a fucking comic book, or dude, it's just a fucking video game, and there's not supposed to be any deep meaning behind it. Just shut up and play, or read, or what the fuck ever. Now, my ambiguously accented strawman aside, I do often see this logic pop up most often whenever someone tries to talk about media that's considered not high art. You've got your video games, your comic books, your general pulp fiction, basically any media that's not made to cater to the tastes and sensibilities of high academia, but rather the mainstream or a supremely dedicated niche of nerds. Preferably nerds with a lot of expendable income. Now, just to clarify, this isn't a medium-specific issue. Obviously, there's a plethora of comic books and video games, graphic novels and interactive experiences that are taken seriously as high art. And of course, there are comics and games within their mainstreams, let's call them middlebrow types, which, while are still made as commercial products, have more artistic effort in them than what is expected, and thus earns them the respect of critics. However, most comics, most games, most anything in media really, are just commercial products. They are made to be consumed, and the people who make them don't have the highest artistic intent. Which is where we come back to the curtains were fucking blue. The logic from that meme typically goes hand in hand with dismissal of analysis of popular media. Since this movie, or that game, or that comic, or that song was made simply to sell itself or advertise another product, deep analysis of it is meaningless. That since the creator's intent was not to have a deeper meaning, trying to suss out deeper meaning expressed in the work itself is just pointless and pretentious. And, well, folks, I'm no fancy big city academic. I don't even have a college degree yet, but even I concur with intellectuals when I say that that kind of thinking is complete and utter bullshit. And furthermore, I've lived in the South for 16 years. You think I'd do better than just poor man's foghorn leghorn, you know? Well, c'est la vie. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, not buying it. The idea that it's pointless to parse out deeper meaning in a piece of media that didn't have deep intention to begin with represents a fundamental misunderstanding of how media works. For you see, boys and girls, the consumption of art is not a one-to-one conversation with the consumer and the artist. Quite the contrary. The consumption of art is a conversation between the consumer and the art itself. When you watch Captain America: The Winter Soldier, you're not having a conversation with the Russo brothers or Kevin Feige. You are having a conversation with the action, with the dialogue, with the midway plot twist, with the characters, with the jokes, with the sound design, with the cinematography, including that one gratuitous ass shot of Scarlett Johansson, with the music choices, costume design, and all-around aesthetic. All of which serve to stir a reaction within you as you watch the film. And more often than not, those reactions can be more than just visceral thrill. This popcorn superhero movie got people's brains rattling about freedom versus security, America's post-9/11 foreign policy, and the idea that maybe our government doesn't have our best interests in mind. And while you could argue that was the story's point, I would argue that the movie's bottom line point was that they all got in a room and were like, alright, last Captain America movie made a good amount of dough, let's make another one. We got Scarlett, we got Sam, alright, put them in. This movie was a commercial product designed to make money, but that doesn't matter. It still gives people something to think and talk about like all art. When an artist puts a work out there, it's out there. And regardless of how or why it was made, it's still there to be looked at with a critical eye. And if that critical look can spur an interesting or enlightening discourse, I am all for it. It doesn't matter if the work is high or low art. Ultimately, they're both just drops in a bucket. But those drops touch other drops, and they can make puddles. And eventually those puddles touch other puddles, and eventually they can redefine the whole damn bucket. And in case I've lost you with that, what I'm saying is that the tiny ideas that each piece of media conveys, when looked at critically, can make way for new ideas, which can make way for all new ways of thinking. And to stifle or deride that critical thought just because it's for stuff that's not designated analysis fodder for the ivory tower, well, I just don't think it's right. Now, for some of you watching this, I'm sure what I've been saying has just been a bunch of no duh. But I'm using this video as a foundation for other videos. I'm going to use whatever piece of media comes my way and spurs my imagination to talk about whatever I want. Sometimes it's going to be big ideas, sometimes it's just going to be little things that are amusing to me, but ultimately my goal is to just give you my most honest and interesting thoughts. My name is Jake Roberts, and I'm going to be rambling, ranting, raving, and ruminating. Those are my 4 R's. I hope you enjoy them all. But seriously, fuck off with that blue curtain shit. Jesus Christ, I hate that meme.